We are back and better than ever. My shirt says, eat, sleep, coffee, repeat. I am legit the biggest caffeine addict on the planet. That's what college does to you. It just makes you addicted to coffee. What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Richa Anurag. Thank you so much for clicking. I actually wanted to make a video about my experience actually growing up as an Indian American. The good, the bad, and how I identify myself and how I'm very, very proud to be an Indian American. It's just my general story, and yeah, I thought it'd be kind of interesting. Let's get right into it. So yeah, I'll start off by saying that I've always been surrounded by the influence of culture growing up. So just to give a general background, I was born in the United States. I was actually born in New Jersey. Currently still live in New Jersey, but my family is from India. So my mom is actually from Mumbai, India, and my dad is from New Delhi, India. So that both of my parents are from very, very big cities. Yeah, my brother and I grew up in New Jersey, and my family is very, very religious and celebrate everything, legit everything. We celebrate very, very big. I've always been surrounded by it ever since I was a baby girl. I'd always wear cultural clothing, like we would always wear kurtas and lehengas, which are the traditional clothes that you wear in India. Growing up in the States, I actually was a little bit embarrassed about it actually. There's so many examples of how I was embarrassed. Like for one, my name. Not everybody can pronounce my name. My full name is Richa Anurag Chaturvedi. My name is not the easiest to pronounce. Classmates and teachers, I know a lot of people can relate. I know a lot of my friends can relate to just, none of our teachers could pronounce not just our first name, but also our last name properly. So I was super insecure about that because I was like, no one could say my name properly, and it's like such an ethnic name. So I just thought it was a very, I felt almost like a little bit of like an outsider because my name was just not easy to pronounce. I would pronounce it in an American way almost. Like I would say, my name is Richa Anurag Chaturvedi, just so it would be easy to pronounce instead of saying it the proper way. But I don't take it too much to heart because obviously there's certain alphabet and certain vowels that some people just can't naturally pronounce. So I didn't take it too seriously, but at the same time I was also like, people just don't know how to pronounce it. Another thing was actually, I'm vegetarian. And I've been vegetarian since day one because of religious reasons. A lot of people around me, people eat meat, there's barbecues, there's all of that sort of stuff. And I would be just very embarrassed for being vegetarian, especially when I was in elementary school. A lot of people would ask me, oh, are you gonna eat that? You're gonna eat this? And I would, for some reason, be embarrassed for being a vegetarian. It's more of the reasoning for why I was vegetarian. It wasn't a dietary restriction, it was just simply because it was for religious reasons. So eating, food at school. My mom actually would pack my brother and I Indian food for lunch. So we would have roti and sabji. You eat it by hand. And majority of foods that people would eat in the cafeteria growing up, they would be eating it with a fork and a spoon or something like that. And I would just be very embarrassed for, the smell of the food and also, just being judged for eating with your hands, all of that sort of stuff. All of the aspects that came with being in India, and I was never purely proud of it, just simply because it was not like everybody else. Trying to be as American as possible. But when you're growing up, it's hard to identify yourself in general, and it becomes even more hard when you have two different cultures. We were living in two different worlds almost. Then the other part of me was also every time I would visit my family back home. I'm very, very blessed to say that my brother and I have been able to actually go to India many times. I am not fluent in the language that my family speaks. They are all fluent in Hindi, which is the main language of India. There's so many languages that people speak in India, but my family, we speak Hindi. And I'm not fluent in Hindi because, long story short, I did not speak until I was 3 years old. My parents were just like, we need to get this girl to just at least speak one language properly. She's growing up in America, so let's get her to just at least speak English properly. Still to this day, I don't know if I'm speaking English properly. I still am to this day very insecure about the fact that I'm not fluent in Hindi. Again, I know a few phrases and I was not able to speak with my grandparents and just people who I really do want to talk to. And it's crazy because we have this love for each other, even though we can barely understand what each other is saying. To this day, I'm not truly able to communicate with my family because of that language barrier. Every time that I even try to speak in Hindi, they make fun of me for my accent. Which is crazy because I don't usually laugh at anyone who has an Indian accent for when they speak English, but I get teased a lot for any time that I even attempt to speak in Hindi. And that's definitely something that really messed up with how I perceived, you know, myself as like, am I truly an Indian? Am I really standing up for my culture? I know a lot of people actually who, similar story as me, like have immigrant parents from outside of the US, but they're able to speak in their mother tongue very well and are able to speak English just as well. I'm not like that. It was hard for me just to be able to speak one language, so that definitely played a role into how I identify myself. It really has hindered my confidence a lot, which was not being able to speak properly. In general, like when it comes to your identity, you sometimes feel that you are not enough. The way that I identify myself now, I embrace myself for who I am. Say that my parents decided to raise my brother and I in India. I would have grown up with an Indian accent. Let's say the same thing happened where it was like I wasn't able to properly talk until I was 3 years old. And they would probably have the same logic but in a different country. They were saying, oh, well now you would be born in India, so let's just make sure that you're fluent in Hindi because that's the main language that everyone speaks, so let's get her to learn that language. And I probably would have been insecure for maybe not understanding English or maybe having an accent. If I was born in India, I would probably still have the same insecurities. Is that you're not alone when it comes to any sort of identity crisis, because that can definitely happen, especially in the United States. So I think just don't lose who you are. And I think that there's something super beautiful about culture. Like I really, really love wearing lehengas. Like I used to always just wear kurtas because I never really liked, you know, showing my stomach. I was a little bit embarrassed about that. But now like I love in clothing, and I love, you know, especially when it comes to the holidays, like our national holidays, Diwali and even Holi, which is like where we celebrate colors and everything like that. Like I now love those holidays. I see in a lot of like pictures like people with colors on their bodies, and I used to hate when I was younger getting color on my face. I'm like, I'm gonna have to wash my hair and everything like that. Now I go ham. I'm like, I throw each other with color and stuff like that. I love my culture, and I'm not embarrassed of it in any way. Culture is like what makes us all different and makes us all unique, and I think celebrating every culture is super cool. At the time, it's all in my head. I'm like, no one has ever said that you're not Indian enough. You have to just remind yourself that you were born into this situation, or you were born in this culture, or you were born in this race, and that's something that you just cannot control. So your physical features, like your face, your weight, all that sort of stuff, right? Those are stuff that you could potentially change or manipulate if you decide to. If that makes you feel happier about yourself. Your race and your identity, those are things you can't necessarily change. You were born into this. Instead of maybe denying it or not being proud of it, learn to be proud of that part of who you are. And not just that, stand up for who you are. If you're proud about that trait of who you are, you learn to stand strong in who you are. But I think also realizing that, because I think a lot of people can also lose a sense of their true culture. In general, especially in the States, I've noticed that everything and everyone is just trying to be Americanized. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, having a certain attribute of who you are, but at the same time, you also don't want to lose who you are in general just to fit in. There is no such thing as fitting in. And in general, you're gonna have those comparisons because that's just human nature, right? Is to compare ourselves. But overall, your identity and who you are, you're meant to have your identity. It's important to embrace that. Embrace every single part of who you are and learn more about your culture. Don't be embarrassed of it and don't be ashamed of it, because every culture, in my opinion, is beautiful, and that's the most important thing. So yeah, that's all I have to really say about you know, my experience growing up as an Indian American and how I'm super proud to be Indian American and Desi. And yeah, I hope this maybe like you learned a little bit more about me, myself, and I, and also maybe that you took something away but about being proud of who you are. Be proud of who you are. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and also subscribe for more, and I will see you guys for the next video. Bye guys.